A very good afternoon to all of you. I hope you are doing well. I'm repeating this. I am Vinod Sharma and I am your host for today. Welcome to My Loan Cares webinar on touchless personal loan. So, allow me to introduce My Loan Care to everyone. My Loan Care is India's leading online loans marketplace led by a Gurgaon based team of techno financial experts working on a mission to bring transparency, simplicity, and convenience in the way people borrow money. We are a bank neutral platform that offers financial services for products such as personal loan, gold loan, home loan, fixed deposits, and many more. Today, we'll discuss about contactless online personal loan. In this webinar, we'll cover first, eligibility criteria to get a contactless personal loan. Second, banks that are providing contactless personal loan. Third, ways to ensure that you are ready for a complete online application process. Fourth, common mistakes that lead to physical intervention in the loan online loan application. So this is the agenda of our webinar. After that, we'll have a Q&A round and all the participants are open to type their questions in the Q&A chat on the screen, as I have said earlier as well. We'll take up the questions one by one after the presentation. Let's hear more on this from Mr. Gaurav Gupta, the CEO and founder of My Loan Care, an alumnus of Delhi College of Engineering and IIM Calcutta. He is a CFA holder with a 20 plus years of experience in banking and financial services. Now, over to you, Mr. Gaurav.
Thank you, Vinod. And let me once again welcome all our guests today to this webinar. We will keep the presentation short, as I can see that there are a lot of questions that are being asked by the participants. So we'll probably spend not more than 15 minutes on the presentation. And we hope that large part of the questions will already get answered from this presentation, and the rest we would take up one by one once we are done with this. So welcome to the session, and let's quickly run through this and then move on to the Q&A. Essentially, when we talk about contactless, what does contactless actually mean for you and me? We've all seen how various categories of consumption have moved from the traditional way to the digital or the contactless way. I'm sure everybody will relate to some of the examples which are shown on the screen. So you had a typical Kirana store that all of us have walked into at many points in time in our past life, but now that's kind of a rarity. Most people like to shop online. Similarly, from handling bundles of cash, making cash payments for everything small and large, we're now principally using wallets and net banking for making most of our transactions. Similarly, if some of us would recall that in the yesteryears we used to actually stand in queues to pay bills, whether it be electricity bill, water bill, or any other kind of bill. We used to go to the counters and make those payments. I don't think anybody does that anymore. All of that is now moved online. And the latest one, which I personally find very interesting, is that the pandemic has meant that even the face-to-face physical consultation that we used to do with the doctors has actually come down, and a lot of the consultation takes place over video. So that's exactly what we mean when we talk about contactless. If you look at the hashtag that we are using for this session, which is Ghar Se Loan. Now I think everybody talks about Ghar Pe Loan, which is home loan, but here we're talking about Ghar Se Loan. So we're saying that how can you actually avail any type of loan sitting at your home? हमने पहले देखा है कि पुराने ज़माने में क्या होता था, and when I say पुराने ज़माने, I mean a few years ago. It's not as if मैं पुरानी जनरेशन की बात नहीं कर रहा. तो पहले क्या होता था कि अगर किसी को लोन चाहिए तो आप लोग जाते थे, हम बैंक में पहले हम चूज करते थे कौन से बैंक में जाना है. घर के आसपास में जो बैंक की ब्रांच होती थी वहां जाते थे. बैंक में ब्रांच में जाके मैनेजर से मिलते थे या टेलर से मिलते थे. वो हमें एक एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म देते थे. हम एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म भर या तो वहीं भर देते थे या उसके साथ में बहुत सारे डॉक्यूमेंट लगाने होते थे, तो उसको फॉर्म को घर लेके आते थे, उसके साथ में सारे डॉक्यूमेंट लगाते थे, उनके ऊपर साइन करते थे, सेल्फ अटेस्टेशन करते थे, फोटो लगाते थे और फिर जाके बैंक में सबमिट करते थे. बैंक में सबमिट करने के बाद में थोड़े दिन के बाद में बैंक से कोई आके आपके घर पे कुछ वेरिफिकेशन करता था, अगर आपका लोन अप्रूव होता था तो आप फिर बैंक जाते थे, वहां से फोन आता था आपके पास बैंक से, आप बैंक जाते थे, चेक लेके आते थे, उस चेक को अपने बैंक में डिपॉजिट कराते थे. तो दैट इज हाउ द ट्रेडिशनल पर्सनल लोन प्रोसेस यूज्ड टू वर्क. अभी क्या हो गया कॉन्टैक्टलेस पर्सनल लोन के अंदर कि आपके पास में एबिलिटी है कि आप एक ऑनलाइन लोन एप्लीकेशन सबमिट कर सकते हैं, चाहे वो बैंक की साइट पे हो या एक मार्केट प्लेस जैसे माई लोन केयर है उसकी साइट पर हो, और आपके पास आपको एक इंस्टेंट डिसीजन दे दिया जाता है कि आपका लोन इन प्रिंसिपल अप्रूव्ड है या नहीं है, कितने रेट के लिए अप्रूव्ड है, किस अमाउंट के लिए अप्रूव्ड है, या आपके अप्रूवल के क्या चांसेस है, वो आपको इमीडिएट बता दिया जाता है. There is no need for you to walk into a branch. There is no need for you to submit any physical papers at this point in time. उसके बाद में कुछ कस्टमरी चेक्स बैंक्स के जैसे रहते हैं, वो करे जाते हैं, और वो चेक्स कंप्लीट होने के बाद में बैंक, अगर आपका लोन फाइनली अप्रूव हो जाता है और सारी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कंप्लीट हो जाता है, तो आपके अकाउंट में डायरेक्टली पैसे क्रेडिट हो जाते हैं. इसके सो दिस इज हाउ द टू प्रोसेसेस आर वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट. इफ यू लुक एट व्हाट इट ये पीछे से चलता कैसे है, हाउ डज दिस एंटायर प्रोसेस वर्क. तो इसमें होता ये है कि when you log in into a site like a My Loan Care, you fill up a form. So we have an ability to say कि okay, which customer is eligible for which bank. आपको आपके सामने कुछ indicative offers दिखा दिए जाते हैं. You can choose from those indicative offers जो भी आपको suitable लगता है. आप, और वो जो choice है that is not only on the basis of the rates, it's also on the basis of features. So for example, somebody wants to have a loan जिसमें prepayment allowed होना चाहिए, somebody wants to have a loan जिसमें tenure लंबा मिलना चाहिए. So customer की जो preference है उसके हिसाब से आपके लिए क्या loans हैं और उनकी क्या features हैं वो आपको transparently बता दिया जाता है. You have an ability to apply, and the beauty is that you can apply at the click of a button. There is no need for anybody to walk into any branch. And even if you're wanting to apply with multiple banks, there is no need to submit multiple applications. Just your online interface is structured in a way कि front end पे आप एक single application देख रहे हैं और पीछे multiple banks के साथ में integrations हैं. So we've tried to present simplistically how the technology works. Once and you get a in principle sanction which is given almost instantaneously on the platform itself, and after that the disbursement process starts, which will involve e-signing, video KYC, uploading of certain documents, and then in a few hours time or maximum a day's time the loan money is getting disbursed without you having to actually step out of your home. I think the key word there is ghar se loan. So nobody is asking you कि आप बैंक जाइए, nobody is saying कि आप किसी से मिलिए. You can do it completely contactless. And इसके पीछे जो टेक्नोलॉजी चल रही है, that is where that is what is managed by platforms like My Loan Care and in partnership with the banks and the NBFCs that we work with. तीसरा, one of the important parts that I want to cover is that a lot of people have a view, and we've seen that as part of our interactions with the customers. People feel that contactless personal loan और instant personal loan का मतलब है कि हमें app based lender से लोन लेना है. ऐसा नहीं है. Contactless and instant personal loans are available from all types of lenders, whether it be banks, it be the traditional NBFCs, and of course the app-based lenders. So we've given examples of all of them. So different banks, NBFCs, app-based lenders cater to different segments of the market, but all of them offer contactless loans without a problem. So it is not necessary that you necessarily need to go to only an app-based lender for you to get a digital personal loan. It is also not necessary that you will get a contactless personal loan only from your existing salary account bank. That is also not correct. So you have ability to get this loan from a lender of your choice, the lender who is offering you the best rate, the best terms, the maximum flexibility, and it meets your requirement. In this slide, we've quickly tried to compare the the physical personal loan and the digital personal loan on the basis of certain important parameters which are relevant from a customer standpoint. So on the first column essentially talks about the parameter, then the second is how do they stack up for the traditional loans, and the third is the digital loans. So if you look at interest rates for personal loan, interest rates are starting today at about 10.25% per annum on a reducing basis. there is no difference in the interest rate which are applicable for online personal loans. So it is not necessary that the online personal loans have to come more expensive or anything like that. The rates are absolutely the same. If you look at the typical processing fees that you end up paying, now the fact is that offline or the traditional processing involves a lot of work for both the bank and the customer, and hence there are higher costs involved. So typically the costs involved on instant or on contactless loans is lower, and hence it is highly likely that you would end up saving some money on processing fees if you end up if you opt for a contactless personal loan. Processing time, we typically find that personal loan as a product is suitable for customers who are looking for a very quick access to money for a certain use that they have. Typically, depending on the lender that you apply to, the traditional loans tend to get disbursed in anywhere between 5 to 30 days. And if you look at the contactless or the instant personal loans, there the in-principle approval is given on an instant basis, and subject to completion of digital KYC, which we will talk about very shortly, the disbursal can happen typically within 6 hours. So the process is much faster. If you look at choice, अगर आप एक ट्रेडिशनल तरीके से पर्सनल लोन ले रहे हैं तो आपकी चॉइस उतनी ही है जितने बैंक्स में आप खुद जाके अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. तो अब आप कितने बैंक्स में जाके एक कस्टमर एक लोन के लिए अप्लाई करेगा. तो जबकि अगर आप ऑनलाइन पर्सनल लोन ले रहे हैं तो एक सिंगल ऑनलाइन एप्लीकेशन के थ्रू आप मल्टीपल partners को access कर सकते हैं, and you can choose the offer that is most suited for you. So the choice becomes much wider. One area which we've seen, which is a concern for a lot of customers, is that will I be subjected to any kind of fraud or misuse of my documents if I'm availing loans? Now, what we find is that when you're submitting physical copies of your documents to the bank or to an agent, there have been instances of those documents being misused. I think so you need to be careful. If you look at the digital space, there again, there are a lot of risks involved, and the customer again needs to be careful. This is a topic that we will deal with, in the subsequent sections of this presentation. But the important part is that in a digital personal loan, you have ability to control the fraud part, because by taking certain security measures, you will actually ensure that you're not falling victim to a fraud. However, when you're dealing with the physical process, that element of control is missing to a large extent. Obviously, because of all of these factors that I spoke about, it is easy to see that there is greater convenience, there is greater ease in availing a contactless loan. As we already spoke about this, that the decisioning with respect to eligibility is largely instantaneous, which effectively means that there is higher visibility. So it is not as if you are coming to know after a gap of 10 days that your loan application has been rejected. If that be the case, that's something that you would get to know almost instantaneously. One important area is that, and I can see some of the questions on the Q&A also relate to this, that who is eligible to get a personal loan online? So the simple answer to this question is that everybody who is eligible to get a personal loan through the conventional route is also eligible to get a personal loan through the online route. There is absolutely no difference, which effectively means that every salaried individual who's getting a regular monthly salary in the bank account and is in a formal job is eligible to get an online personal loan. Similarly, self-employed professionals who are earning a regular income and are filing their regular income tax returns would also be eligible to get online personal loans. So these could be people like doctors, engineers, consultants, architects. All of these people are also similarly eligible for online personal loans. And where can you actually obtain these loans? There, the technology has made it possible now for these loans to be offered in a very convenient fashion, and you can apply on any of the leading marketplaces which have a technology and online distribution tie-up with the banks and the leading NBFCs. And the most important part that I already discussed is that it is not necessary that you necessarily need to avail this loan only from the bank where you have a salary account or a savings account. You can avail this from any lender, and although the criteria may be different, sometimes your own bank may offer you a better term, but many a times another bank may also offer you a better term. Reason being that the banks are also wanting to acquire new customers, and hence wherever they see an opportunity to acquire a new customer who's currently not banking with them, the banks tend to offer good deals. Okay, I'll come to the digital KYC piece. I think that's the most important aspect of ensuring that there is a very smooth and a 100% digital interface. So one big reason why a loan journey ends up necessitating a physical leg is the digital KYC cannot be completed. Now, as a customer, what is it that you can do to ensure that you are prepared for this process? कहने का मतलब ये है कि आप एक बोरोअर होने के नाते ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं जिससे कि आपका जो लोन है वो पूर्णतः डिजिटल बेसिस पे डिसबर्स हो जाए और उसके अंदर किसी भी तरह का कोई फिजिकल इंटरवेंशन बैंक को या लेंडर को ना करना पड़े। उसके लिए कुछ चीजें हैं जो कि जरूरी हैं, जो मैं यहाँ पर आपके सामने रखना चाहूंगा। फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट, ऑल ऑफ अस मस्ट इंश्योर दैट आवर मोबाइल नंबर is correctly updated in our Aadhaar card and in our bank account. हमारा जो मोबाइल नंबर जिससे कि हम लोन अप्लाई कर रहे हैं वो लोन नंबर आधार कार्ड में और बैंक अकाउंट में सेम होना चाहिए. That is important for us to be able to complete a digital KYC. Second thing is that because the bank would access your banking statements on a digital basis, so customers should ideally have a net banking facility available on the salary account in which the customer is receiving salary, and the same mobile number with which you are applying for the loan should also be updated in the salary account. बहुत बार क्या होता है कि लोग मल्टीपल फोन यूज कर रहे होते हैं, तो बैंक अकाउंट में एक नंबर होता है, आधार कार्ड पे दूसरा नंबर होता है और वहां से एक कंफ्यूजन शुरू होता है और उस केस में डिजिटल केवाईसी का प्रोसेस ब्रेक कर जाता है. So to avoid that, it is best to ensure that you're using only one mobile number for the purpose of applying a loan, and it should be the same number which is updated in your Aadhaar and your bank statement, and it should be the same number to which your net banking facility is linked. तीसरा ये देखा गया है कि पर्सनल लोन लेने वाले जो हमारे कस्टमर्स होते हैं वो टिपिकली मेट्रोज में काम कर रहे होते हैं, लेकिन बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि वो उनके बैंक अकाउंट में या आधार कार्ड के ऊपर नेटिव प्लेस का एड्रेस होता है. So effectively what it means is that people are having their Aadhaar cards are still reflecting their permanent address as opposed to their current address, and the permanent address may belong to a remote location जहाँ पे कि शायद लोन रिजेक्ट होने के चांसेस हो जाते हैं क्योंकि वो लोकेशन बैंक के सर्विसेबल लोकेशन से बाहर चली जाती है. So I think what is important is that whatever be your current address, the same address should be updated in your Aadhaar card and your bank account. If that be the case, the entire physical leg of physical verification CPV will be most likely not applicable in your case, and hence it would enable the digital processing to go through. People who have an official email ID, most of us have. So people who have an official email ID should have an ability to send and receive emails from that ID. What the lenders do is that in order to confirm that you're actually working for that organization, they'll typically want to confirm that this email ID is actually active. And if that be the case, if they are able to confirm that this email ID is active and you have access to the email ID, they will waive the physical verification of employment in most of the cases. Especially in an environment where many of us are working from home due to partial lockdown in many of the places, it is critical that the customer, as a customer, we should have access to the email ID so that the premise verification of employment does not need to be done or can be waived off. Finally, from a digital KYC standpoint, you should maintain physical copies of your main KYC documents, which is essentially the PAN card, the Aadhaar card, with correct address proof, and these should be available for a video KYC session. Video KYC will typically take not more than 2 to 3 minutes. It can easily be done. All the banks and the lenders now have that facility available with them, most of them at least. And if the above criteria are satisfied, the entire KYC can be completed in a digital mode. Wherever there is a failure of any of these above criteria, then necessarily some part of the loan application process moves physical, and hence it leads to delays. So as a customer, I think these are the points that we need to be prepared with. Now I would want to discuss about the fraud aspect that we had spoken about earlier. तो हमने पहले ये कहा था कि कैसे आप ये इंश्योर करें कि आप किसी ऑनलाइन फ्रॉड के शिकार ना हो जाएं। हम में से बहुत लोगों ने हाल ही में पढ़ा होगा न्यूज़ में भी कि कुछ चाइनीज ऐप्स इस तरह के थे जहां पे फ्रॉड हो रहा था और कस्टमर की इंफॉर्मेशन मिसयूज हो रही थी। तो वैसे हम ये तो नहीं कह सकते कि हम हर तरह के फ्रॉड से बच सकते हैं, लेकिन काफी हद तक जागरूकता और सचेत होने के साथ हम फ्रॉड को प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं। सो द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट वी नीड टू चेक फ्रॉम अ फ्रॉड स्टैंड पॉइंट इज दैट you should never transact any financial transaction, whether it be a loan or anything else, over a site or a platform which is not secure. And how do we know that a platform is secure? तो हमने एक आपको सामने स्क्रीन पे दिखाया है कि अगर आप साइट देखते हैं, मान लीजिए myloancare.in अपने ब्राउजर में टाइप करते हैं, तो आपके सामने एक जो URL आएगा वो आएगा HTTPS। HTTP और HTTPS के बीच में ये डिफरेंस है कि जो URL के अंदर HTTPS आ रहा है वो URL सिक्योरिटी सर्टिफाइड है, और whatever information is being transacted over that platform is secure. It is being passed on a encrypted basis and is highly unlikely to be misused in any manner. So the first thing that you should check is that wherever you are availing any financial transaction or you're undertaking any financial transaction, the URL that is getting displayed is a HTTPS URL. Typically, you would see that if you go to any bank or NBFC website, their websites will always be HTTPS. Same is the case for online marketplaces; they will all be HTTPS. So never transact any financial transaction over a site that is not secure, which essentially means that you do not see HTTPS or you do not see a green tick against it. Second is that one more fraud which is very prevalent in the market, especially for people who are wanting to avail personal loan, is that there are fraud companies, agencies, apps who will say that, okay, fine, we've got your personal loan application, please deposit 500 rupees, 1000 rupees or whatever amount in this bank account or on this wallet, this Paytm number, this Google Pay, or through net banking, and then we will process your application. This is a fraud. There is absolutely no denying it. It's a fraud. In case of personal loan, processing fee will be charged only and only after your loan has been sanctioned. There is absolutely no reason for anybody to demand any money from the customer before that. Typically, personal loans ki case mein fees is deducted. If there is any fees applicable, it is deducted by the respective lender out of the loan amount. So you actually do not need to make a payment either in cash or to anybody's wallet or anybody's bank account at all for the purpose of availing a personal loan. In case of a home loan, you may be charged certain login fees, but that would also be charged only and only on the lender's platform. So for example, if you are applying for a online home loan from HDFC, then HDFC may charge you an online login fees. Same is the case with, let's say, an Axis Bank or anybody else, but that payment is being made directly to the bank on their platform. There is no question of making any cash payment or paying to any wallet or to a third-party bank account. If there is anybody who's asking you to pay even 1 rupee for processing a loan application and that payment is being made to a personal account or a wallet or anything like that, be rest assured that you are being subjected to a fraud. So you should simply withdraw from that process. The next caution, again, especially in a digital world, what happens is that you have ability to apply for a loan at multiple places simultaneously. If you apply at too many places, it will affect your credit score, or what is popularly known as your CIBIL score. So make only one application. Do not make multiple applications. It will hurt your chances of getting a loan, and you are also increasing your risk of being subjected to a fraud. Some of the other points that one should always check, and some of them flow from the RBI regulations as well. Even if you're availing loan from, let's say, a personal loan app, not all of the apps are actually lenders. They are acting as aggregators. So you must always check that who is the lender. So you may be availing a loan from, let's say, My Loan Care, but we will always tell you, if you go to our website, we will always tell you that this is an offer from this particular bank. The name of the bank, the name of the NBFC, or the name of the lender is always displayed very, very transparently, and this is a regulatory requirement. So if somebody is not telling you that who is the lender, then I think please ask that who is the lender. Loan kaun de raha hai? Second is that whatever be the lender must be RBI registered and RBI licensed. Do not deal with agencies that are neither registered nor licensed. Third is that when you look at the personal loan rate, there are multiple ways in which the rate can get quoted. It can either be a reducing rate or it can be a flat rate. Typically, flat rate loans are very expensive. So if somebody is offering you a flat rate of 8%, it amounts to saying that, if you were to calculate what is the applicable rate on a reducing basis, it will end up being 16%. So rate comparison should always be done on a reducing basis and not on a flat basis. A lot of customers want to avail for partial or full prepayment, and some of the questions that we have on the Q&A panel also reflect that. So always check that what are the provisions for partial prepayment or full prepayment or foreclosure for the loan that you are availing. These tend to vary from lender to lender, product to product. Even for the same lender, there may be multiple products. In one product, they may be offering you a certain facility of partial prepayment or foreclosure. In another product, they may not be offering you the same facility. So please ask this question upfront before you say yes to the loan, that what is the part payment and the foreclosure provision that would be applicable on the loan that you're about to avail. So these are some of the points that we have put down for you based on our experience of dealing with customers. I would now request the floor to be open for questions. Some of those questions have already been posted, and the rest, I'm sure, the participants would have more questions, so we'll be happy to take those.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav, for sharing such insightful knowledge. It was really helpful. I mean, from learning how to get away with frauds and how to be cautious about these frauds, and knowing the nitty-gritty of personal loan, it was really important for us. I am very sure that it has helped all of us. Now we will start with the Q&A session, the most important session. Please feel free to ask any doubt. Miss Abhavya will be conducting this session, the Q&A session. Over to you, Miss Abhavya.
Thanks, Vinod. Hi, everyone. So we'll take the questions one by one, and I hope we'll be able to cover most of the questions, that have been dropped by all of the attendees. So there's one of the guests has asked that my brother is small businessman. He defaulted on education loan long back. CIBIL impacted. Now he wants credit line or loan to expand his business. What should we do?
So I think, if there is a default which is there on any of the existing loans, the first thing that we would recommend is that you should try and settle that with the respective lender. The reason it is important is that either you would not be able to avail further credit for the purpose of running your business or any other requirement. And the second is that even if you were to get such a loan, the applicable rates would be exorbitant. So the best thing to do would be to try and reach a settlement with the lender for the defaulted amount. and so that you can start on a clean slate.
Okay. Okay. One of the guests has asked, can we get instant personal loan from government banks or private banks give it easily?
So instant personal loans currently are not available from any of the government banks. These are currently being offered by private banks, by NBFCs, and by app-based lenders. So as of now, we are not aware of any of the government banks offering instant personal loans.
Okay. The next question is by Ms. Sakshi. She is asking that, is MyLoanCare partnered with any of the personal loan apps?
Yes, we have partnerships with multiple personal loan apps, and those are available on the platform. And you can avail, app-based personal loans easily, seamlessly over MyLoanCare.
Okay. One of the guests has asked, my CIBIL score is 700, but still my loan is not getting approved by HDFC Bank. Which can be other lender to whom I should go with?
Yeah, so here what happens is that, while the CIBIL score 700 is good, one will also need to look at that, are there any, delinquencies or delayed payments in the loan tracks? Second is that we need to look at what is the income and the existing obligations that you currently have. And based on that, the eligibility can be looked at. Now, the reason for HDFC not giving a loan could either be because of tracks, or it could be because the existing EMI burden itself may be on the higher side. Now, there are other lenders who are available, and because this is a very specific case, my request would be that if you can, drop a detailed, mail with your income and your other details, as in where do you work and what amount of loan you're looking at. If you can drop that over email to care@mylooncare.in, we will organize a call back to you.
Okay. So Deepak Kumar is asking, is there any brokerage fee for this?
No, there is no brokerage fee for this because we are essentially authorized partners of the banks and the lenders, and there is no brokerage which is charged to the customer. And also, in this context, I would like to mention that as per RBI regulation, brokerage cannot be charged to a customer for the purpose of availing any loan. So if anybody asks you for any brokerage for the purpose of getting you a loan, I think that's possibly another form of fraud that you may be subjected to.
Okay. One of the guests has asked, should I only go for lower interest rate, or are there any other things which I should keep in mind?
So, of course, lower interest rate is something that everybody wants. All of us want it. At the same time, what you need to look at is that are there any specific features that you're looking at? So, for example, we had also spoken about part payment facility, prepayment facility. If you need flexibility in terms of being able to part pay or prepay your loan, then perhaps a slightly higher interest rate may also work out cheaper for you. Second is that there are some products which are offered on a credit line basis, where you have an ability to draw down the amount that you want and pay interest only on that. So if that's a product that is more suitable for your requirement, then you may consider that. So interest rate is one significant part of the decision making for choosing a loan, but that's not the only criteria.
Okay. Yeah, I guess this was helpful. Next question is by one of the guests. He's asking, what are the benefits of taking loan from people like you, like MyLoanCare, and not from my salary bank?
Yeah, so see, if you were to take a loan directly from your salary bank, you can definitely do so. However, you are restricting your choice in terms of being able to get the best offers. It is possible that your best offer on your loan could come from your salary bank. It could also come from some other bank or some other lender. So if you want to exercise that choice, then it's better to apply on one of the platforms. However, if you necessarily want to stick only to your existing bank, then you can directly go to your bank also. That's also fine.
Okay. Okay. So one of the guests is asking, ये नई थर्ड पार्टी ऐप से लोन लेना सही है क्या?
देखिए, थर्ड पार्टी ऐप के अंदर ऐसा है कि जो एप्स ऐसी एप्स हैं जो कि रेगुलेटेड हैं, लाइसेंस्ड हैं और ऑथराइज्ड हैं, उनके साथ में लोन लेने में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। लेकिन किसी ऐसी ऐप के थ्रू लोन मत लीजिए जो कि जिसके बारे में आप जानते नहीं हैं, या किसी ऐसी ऐप के थ्रू लोन मत लीजिए जो कि आपको लोन लेने से पहले आपसे पैसे मांगती है। कोई ऐप अगर आपको ये कहती है कि आपका लोन हम तब प्रोसेस करेंगे जब आप हमारे को 500 रुपए, 100 रुपए, 1000 रुपए का फीस देंगे, तो उस ऐप से लोन मत लीजिए। वो चांसेस हैं कि वो फ्रॉड हो सकता है। और मार्केट में आजकल इस तरह के बहुत फ्रॉड हो रहे हैं। गए दिनों में अभी हमने हैदराबाद में और गुड़गांव में पुलिस ने कुछ ऐसे लोगों को अरेस्ट किया है जो कि फेक ऐप चला रहे थे और कस्टमर से पैसा ले रहे थे।
Okay. Yeah, I guess we need to be aware while taking a loan. So the next question is by Ranjana. She's asking that if I apply for a loan on a non-working Saturday, will amount get credited in my account within a day?
If it is a non-working Saturday, then it depends that whether the processing can be completed, is it the same bank or not. So you will need to, it could vary from case to case. In some cases it is possible that the loan amount may get credited on the same day. In some cases it may have to get credited on a working day, so it could vary. But I would also like to mention that in a lot of cases, the contactless loan process, especially if you look at apps, contactless loan process is actually not dependent on a working day. So if the entire process can be completed digitally, then the working day will not make a difference.
Okay. Yeah. So next question is by one of the guests. He's asking that does my employer name affects my eligibility?
Employer does affect eligibility in the sense that banks tend to offer better rates and higher loan amounts to people working for more reputed companies as compared to the smaller companies. So while it may not directly affect your eligibility, but it does affect in terms of the rate that you may get or the amount that you may be eligible for.
Okay. So one of the guests, Salil, is asking, should we take loan or line of credit? Which one is better?
So line of credit is suitable if you want to use it more as a kind of a credit card. What happens in a line of credit is that you would end up paying interest only for the amount of credit that you utilize. So अगर आपने एक मान लीजिए कि 1 लाख रुपए का लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट लिया और आपने लेट्स से वो लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट आपने 12% पे लिया और आपने लेकिन महीने में सिर्फ 15 ही दिन उसको यूज किया, तो आप 15 दिन का ही इंटरेस्ट उस पर पे करेंगे। लेकिन अगर आपने ये 1 लाख रुपए लोन के तौर पे लिए होते, तो चाहे आप यूज करें या ना करें, वो पैसा आपकी सेविंग अकाउंट में पड़ा होता, लेकिन आप उसके ऊपर पूरा 1 महीने का इंटरेस्ट पे करेंगे। तो डिपेंड ये करता है कि आपका यूज ऑफ फंड्स क्या है। अगर आपने वो पैसे यूज करने हैं फॉर अ वेरी टेम्परेरी एक्सपेंडिचर which may go up and down, then you can go for a line of credit. If you are going to use that money for the purpose of, for example, बहुत लोग हम देखते हैं वो क्या बोलते हैं कि हमारे को ये पैसे लेके we need to give it, we need to essentially pay for a security deposit for availing for taking a house on rent. अब उस केस में आपका ये लोन मतलब उस केस में लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट लेने का कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है, क्योंकि आपका लोन तो ड्रॉ डाउन रहने ही वाला है। So if the use is such that you would be able to save money on a line of credit, please do it. If not, then go for a fixed loan. Typically, what will happen is that the rate of interest on line of credit will tend to be a few percentage points higher than a normal loan rate.
Okay. So next question is by Mr. Manish. He's asking that when we took a loan from bank side directly, that time we shared some current address proof like current electricity bill or address on Aadhaar card, where we live on currently. Now the question is, do you want some same kind of documents for Ghar Se loan if we want to take a loan?
Yes, so that it is important that the address proof that you are submitting in either case should be the one where you are currently staying. If the address proof is different from that, then clearly from a process standpoint, some physical intervention will get involved.
Okay. One of the guests is asking, in case I take a loan from a bank in which I don't have an account, then in case, do I need to open an account first before he applies to get a loan?
No, you don't need to open an account beforehand. आपको पहले अकाउंट खोलने की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन काफी केसेस में अब आजकल ऐसा होता है कि जब बैंक आपको लोन देता है तो उसके साथ साथ आपका एक जीरो बैलेंस अकाउंट भी खोल देता है, और उसका बेनिफिट ये है कि अगर आप बैंक ने एक जीरो बैलेंस अकाउंट खोल दिया है लोन लेने के साथ के प्रोसेस के साथ साथ ही, तो आपका लोन गेट्स डिस्बर्स्ड इन दैट अकाउंट एंड यू कैन आल्सो मेक प्रीपेमेंट्स, यू कैन आल्सो मेक योर ईएमआई पेमेंट फ्रॉम दैट अकाउंट, but there is no need for you to open an account beforehand.
Okay. So one of the guests is asking that, is it challenging to get a contactless personal loan if I am living in a remote location?
See, there are some locations that, I think the issue is not about contactless or non-contactless. The issue is that if your, address belongs to a location which is technically a non-service location for a lender, then it can be a challenge. Because where it comes from is that, banks have certain locations where they have their collection setup, and there are some locations where they do not have a collection setup. So they will typically not fund a location where they do not have ability to do collections. So अगर remote से फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, for example, if let's say, if you are in Gurgaon and if somebody is staying in Sona, which may be slightly a remote location, but if it is a service location for the banks or the partner, it is not a problem. So I don't think that there is an issue if you were to take a loan from any of the large banks or the large NBFCs. They have, they are present pretty much pan-India. But in some cases where the location is inaccessible, so, especially we come across some of these locations, in the Northeast, we come across some of these locations, even let's say in the tribal belts, or in some areas where there are law and order issues, for example, areas which are, impacted by, Naxal movement. So if the address belongs to some of those locations, it can be a problem.
Okay. So one of the guests is asking that, how can I ignore hard inquiry? Because there are chances that to compare the interest rates, I'll have to make multiple inquiries.
Yes, so see, hard queries cannot be erased. That is a fact. What we recommend is that in order to avoid hard queries, hard query तब लगती है जब आप बैंक में डायरेक्टली अप्लाई करते हैं, या एनबीएफसी में डायरेक्टली अप्लाई करते हैं, या ऐप बेस्ड लेंडर को डायरेक्टली अप्लाई करते हैं. अगर आप मार्केट प्लेस के थ्रू जाते हैं तो हम क्या करते हैं कि हम हार्ड क्वेरी नहीं लगाते हैं. हमारे केस में ये होगा कि we would first tell you that based on your profile, the system will tell you that you should be applying only with these particular banks. So अगर आप वहाँ पे आपको पहले से ही मालूम है कि आपको लोन इन्हीं लेंडर से लेना है या यहीं से मिलने वाला है, तो आप हार्ड क्वेरी बचा सकते हैं. और ये एक बहुत बड़ा बेनिफिट है मार्केट प्लेस के थ्रू लोन लेने का कि आपकी हार्ड क्वेरी कम लगती है. अब लेकिन अगर एक बार हार्ड क्वेरी लग जाती है तो उसके बाद में उसको इरेज नहीं करा जा सकता.
Okay, so I think people should take care of that while applying for a personal loan from multiple lenders. Okay, so the next question is by one of the guests. He's asking that, what are the things I should look for before applying for a personal loan?
Yeah, so I think the main thing that, as we discussed, is that you should look at what is the requirement, and hence what type of a loan you're looking for, based on the income that you have, and based on the your credit score, where exactly should you be applying. And if you're wanting to go for a digital personal loan, then I think it is important that the the digital KYC that we talked about, in terms of being prepared with a digital KYC set, that should be ensured. Because अगर आप पहले apply कर देंगे और आपका digital KYC in place नहीं होगा, तो वो loan application physical mode में move हो जाएगी या reject हो जाएगी.
Okay. So one of the guests is asking that, I was told interest rate of 12% flat rate. However, my EMI was higher than my friend's loan. Why my EMI was more? App people didn't answer properly.
Yeah, so this can happen for many reasons. One of the most important reasons could be that if let's say you got a loan at 12% and your friend also got loan at 12%, but the friend got a longer tenure. So then your EMI, shorter tenure will mean a higher EMI. Second possibility is that your friend may have got at 12% on a reducing basis while you ended up getting 12% on a flat basis. Now, flat rate based loans, as I had already said, are far more expensive. And if you were to do a comparison, a 12% flat rate would translate into more than 20% reducing basis rate. And that could be the biggest reason why your EMI is higher. So hence it is always important to ask upfront at what is the rate and is it reducing or is it flat. Prefer a lender who's quoting a rate on a reducing basis as opposed to one who's quoting on a flat basis.
Okay. Okay, the next question is by one of the guests who is asking that I am working in a private company of 10 to 15 employees and my salary is around 30,000. Am I able to take a personal loan of 5 lakhs?
So I think the important part here is that, while you mentioned the number of employees in the company, the important part is that A, is the company registered under PF and ESI, and is your PF being deducted? And second, is the salary payment is being done by way of bank transfer or is it being done by check or by cash? Typically, people who are drawing salary by cash or by check, or who are working in companies or firms which are not registered under PF, the eligibility tends to be lower. So if let's say you were working, you had 10-15 employees in the company, but you are registered under PF and ESI and a PF is being deducted and you're getting salary regularly in your bank account, then you would still be eligible for a loan. May not be 5 lakhs, it may be lower. Maybe closer to, for a 30,000 rupees salary, maybe the amount is going to be closer to 2 to 2.5 lakhs, but you would still be eligible. But if the company is not registered under PF and ESI and or the salary is being paid by cash or by check, then you may actually not even be eligible.
Okay. So the next question is by one of the guests, Fahad. He's asking that can I also balance transfer my personal loan online?
So what happens is that while you can get an approval for a balance transfer online, the transfer, you would still need to get a foreclosure generated from your current bank. And for that, it will depend on which bank you're currently availing the loan from. And so that process will depend upon, what are the provisions of the current loan that you're wanting to do a balance transfer on. But the approval can definitely be done online.
Okay. So one of the guests is asking that do we provide any cashback facility and there are any referral bonus as well? Can we refer people to your platform?
Yeah. So we have both a cashback facility and a referral program. So we also have a partner referral app where people can refer customers to us, and they are eligible for attractive referral bonus on that.
Okay. So one of the guests is asking, does that personal loan impact my credit score?
Yes, it does. So if you're regular in the payment of your personal loans, then actually your credit score will get positively impacted. If you're not regular in the payment of your personal loan EMIs, then your credit score would be negatively impacted. The second way in which it impacts is that if the number of personal loans that you have is very high, then your credit score is likely to be negatively impacted. The third manner in which it impacts your credit score is that if there are too many personal loan queries, let's say you applied for a personal loan with 5 lenders in a span of 15 days. Now that will again impact your credit score negatively.
Okay. So one of the guests is asking that do I have to give a reason to apply for a personal loan?
So typically you will be asked to provide what is the proposed end use, as in for what purpose do you plan to use the money. because there are certain purposes which are disallowed from a regulatory standpoint as potential end users of a personal loan. And you need to make a self-declaration that you're going to use the money for the purpose for which it has been availed. Nothing more than that.
Okay, so I guess this is the last question by one of the guests, that which option is better while preparing the loan? Should I opt for reducing the EMI or tenure?
So, see, different people have different preferences. If you want to pay, if you're making a prepayment and but you still believe that you have the ability to continue to pay the original EMI amount, then it makes sense for you to reduce the tenure and keep the EMI the same, because that will mean that your overall interest outgo on the loan will be lower. However, there are also cases where people are making a prepayment because they feel that the EMI burden is on the higher side, and they arrange money, from some other sources, and then they want to essentially prepay the loan partially so that they can bring down the EMI to a level which is more manageable given their income profile. So if that is the case for which you are making a prepayment, then obviously it makes sense to keep the EMI constant and to instead, to keep the tenure constant and to bring down the EMI amount. So it's really dependent on what is the end use or what is the purpose for which you're making the prepayment.
Okay, so I guess we have answered most of the queries, and if people have any questions, they can still drop in or ask us. I guess otherwise we have covered most of the questions.
Thank you so much, Gaurav and Abhavya. This was such a wonderful session. I learned a lot from this session. I mean, in terms of choosing a line of credit or personal loan, in terms of what balance transfer is and how it can help me, and the hard inquiries in terms of credit score. Thank you so much, and I am very sure that it has added some value addition to our people or the people who have joined. If in case there are still some queries unanswered, please reach out to us at care@myloancare.in. I repeat, care@myloancare.in. Thanks to everyone for joining us today, and we hope that we were able to share the best of our knowledge on contactless personal loan in this webinar. We'll be sharing the archive link of the webinar through mail to all the participants. Further, you can also check the link on our social media platforms. So yeah, thank you so much and have a good day ahead.
Thank you, everybody.